Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I want to thank you guys for all your support. If you would, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you hit that subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell to all so you'll be notified of all the new content that I'm pushing out. Today, I got a special guest. I know I've been talking about this, and over some of the videos, we're talking about the California project versus the Norway project. That's what they're basing the California project off of Norway project. And I have a good friend of mine. His name's Steiner, and we've been trying to get this interview together so he could give his perspective or point of view or opinion on how the Norway project works in Norway, because he is in Norway, versus how California is trying to implement it, and the gangs and the violence and the difference between California and Norway. So, all right, here we go. Here's my special guest, Steiner. Hi, Steiner. How
Hello,
you doing?
I'm doing good.
So, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where you're at?
I'm a 40-year-old dad from Norway, and been to the Norwegian prison when I did some shit when I was younger. So I know how everything works. And Charlie just asked me like what the Norwegian prison is all about after he told me about the California project, and I don't think they understand everything about how we Norwegians do stuff when we go to prison or how the prison works in Norway.
So you have so you got a so you kind of like me, when you're younger, do stupid shit, get locked up, but you're born and raised in Norway, correct?
Yeah,
Never
I'm born and raised in Norway.
never been here to the United States.
100% norsk. Ever, never, ever been to the States, and I want to go, but because I've been to prison, you have to wait X amount of years before you can go to the US if you've been inside for aggravated assault like I have. So that's the issue.
Yeah, so the passport issue, they don't want to issue the passport.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. And I know you told us or told me that Norway is very strict about certain things, and um
Yeah, we have another drug policy than you have in the States, and weapon policies are different.
so
We
you
don't
see.
get a gun if we go to the bank and tell them we want a new account. We have to actually go to the shooting range and get a certificate over a long time. And as people can understand when I'm trying to say the American words, I don't speak American that well because I'm Norwegian.
Wow, that's fine. You're good. But so I'm sure you've watched TV, you've seen the news about the United States and the prisons, and especially California being one of the worst
Yeah.
states to be, and the politics there, and the prisons there are all political, and they're all segregated into the southern Mexicans, the northern Mexicans, the blacks, and then you got the whites or the Aryan Brotherhood, the AB, and they all have their own car. They call it a car here, their own faction, and there's a lot of politics that goes on in prison. And just here lately, I've been doing a lot of stories on, because um, they implemented a where the governor took away death row here. So they took everybody that was on death row and kind of sprinkled them amongst the other prisons. So you have death row inmates that were sentenced to death, and sprinkled them and mixed them in with all these other inmates in the other prisons. Um, and I know you got a good background, and I want to hear from you about the prisons, because what you told me and someone else told me, I heard this, is like here you can get, you can get 20 years, you can get 30 years, you could get 300 years, you can get life in prison, you can get with parole, with you can get life without parole, or you could get the death penalty here. And you were saying in Norway, it's not like that. 20, what is it, 20 or
20
21 years?
max and 21, I think was max. And I think it's up to 30 for like people that's, what you call it, if you do a really, really bad thing, like blow up something or stuff, then you can
So,
get like more 30. Like, but most you can get in Norway is 20 or 21 years in prison.
so would you say in Norway that you guys have gang problems and a lot of violence with guns? I mean, every day in the United States, people are getting shot and killed on a regular basis, no matter what state you live in. But California, Chicago, New York is really bad. I mean, there's other states that I'm not naming, but I'm off the top of my head. But I mean, it's just really bad. There's always gun violence every day. People are getting shot and killed. Is that something that's it's normal in Norway?
No, there's not that much gun violence in Norway, and the only gun violence we see is like the small amount in gangs that we have in Norway, in the capital, and the sometimes the bikers have some violence, but they can be friends if they don't have like a beef. If different biker gangs don't have beef together, they can say hello to each other on the outside the street without getting any problems. Like wave.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing? So you're not seeing the violence that we see here on a regular basis. Like, I mean, just for instance, carjacking. Somebody comes up to your car with a gun, rips you out of the car, puts a gun to
Not
your
that
head.
much. The
No.
closest we are to criminality right now is like they use the phone app that you use to transfer money.
Yeah.
They rob you with that. They let it jump jump in front of you and like send me X amount of dollars or Norwegian kroners to my account with your phone. That's the closest thing we come to robberies in Norway nowadays.
Now, do they have a gun when they're saying this, a knife, or they just kind of muscling you?
More muscling, sometimes maybe knives, but never guns, as far as I know.
All right. So the violence is totally different. And that's the
And
thing
it's
here.
kids. It's not
Yeah,
grown
yeah.
up.
Younger kids that's trying to make a name for themselves
Yeah.
or show off for their friends or whatever. So give us a little. I know you said, you've been to prison in Norway. Give us a little glimpse of what prison was like for you and what kind of perks you get, or what it's like if you're in a dorm setting or you're in a cell and you're locked down, because here a lot of times you're locked down 23 hours a day. You only get an hour out, to take a shower or to go to the yard. Or so can you explain how the prison works when you were in prison?
It's like I said, if you're a long timer, you can apply for getting an Xbox, a TV, or a PlayStation in your room as long as you have good behavior. And we go to the movies with the correctional officers or like play football or stuff like that
So whoa.
outside of the prison.
So hold on. Okay, so if you're bad and you said like 21 years is the most you could get, let's say I got 21 years for whatever I did. That's where so I get a PlayStation, TV, my own little apartment, basically.
As long as they behave, they can apply for it if they have a long time prison sentence. If they
But
have a short time prison sentence, they just get like sometimes going to the theater and stuff like that. And if we have a toothache and we tell them like we're really struggling with our toothache, we go for free to the dentist to fix our tooth. I got two wisdom teeth pulled out when I was inside.
so do they actually take you to your dentist, or do you have to go to the prison dentist?
A normal dentist where you're at. I
So
was
you don't
sitting
have,
there with normal people with my correctional officer beside me, going into the dentist's office, getting a tooth picked or pulled out, and going back to the prison. And when I applied to go to my psychologist, I can go like I think it's a 4 hour drive to go back to work my hometown and stay the night after I went to the psychologist, and then drive back the day after to the prison.
and go and go back into the prison. And what's the rate of people from your? I want to get into something else because you talked about the theater, but what's the rate of people, inmates that, like, say you, that you saw, they get to go home, say they go home and they never come back? I mean, what's
Norway, they come back because you get beef in the prison kitchens. If they have a poor life at home, they don't have that much money. They try to get back, but as long as you don't want to go back to prison, don't want to be a criminal, and just want to start your life back again, you don't want to go back. But it's more like say, like see the Boy Scouts, like
Boy
you're just
Scouts?
a gang of people getting to know each other, or like high school, right? People living in a dorm.
So you're in a dorm setting. You're not in a 2-man cell or a 1-man cell.
We're in 2-man cells, but we're always with each other when we're not in a cell sleeping. Like we go outside, and then we have our work we have to do. So you can either work at the kitchen, or you can like make pallets with like nail guns and stuff, and they sell them, and we get money to buy smokes, Norwegian snus, and candy and stuff like that. We get a
So there's
salary.
so wow, that's pretty good. So you get paid, and tell everybody how much did they get paid there? They get, you said something about you get paid really well working in the pallet.
Yeah, I had enough to buy a case of beer when I got home, or
Wow.
2 cases, I think, in Norwegian money, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
This is
Norwegian,
expensive.
Norway's a lot more expensive than the United States, correct?
Yeah,
So when you're in your cell there, so you're in a 2-man cell, is your door locked, or you can just walk in and out whenever you want?
you walk in and out because you have to go to the toilet and stuff.
So you don't have a toilet and a sink in there where you're
No,
locked in.
we have our own shower with like, or we have a shower with a lot of people, right? But you can put like a sign, turn around, occupied, and then they have like a lot of toilets and like stools. So you go outside the room, go to the toilet, go back to your room.
But are you allowed to just, so you're allowed, so you don't, they don't lock your door, your cell door. They don't lock you down. So you can open up your door and go over and visit your friend in another cell, or without any trouble, or not?
You're not allowed to go to visit your friends, but we played poker and we played chips and stuff at night with like spare change, trying to win
And,
some money to get more stuff.
and it's not, is it illegal there to have actual money, physical money there, or no?
No, we
So
get
you can actually have
we
money
get
in there.
physical money to pay for our stuff. We get Norwegian money. We don't get, but we can't have bills. We only have spare
Change, but you can't just as long as it's not in a bill.
and then we can apply to have an account at the prison, right, with our own money. If we have family or stuff that want to send us money.
So that's very interesting. So what about drugs? Now, is drugs a big thing in the prisons there like they are here
I did a lot of drugs.
while you were in prison?
Yeah.
And how were the COs about that? Were they very strict? Did they know what was going
They
on,
didn't
or
know
they?
what could. I don't think they knew what was going on. And like they check you a little bit if you go outside the prison to like go to the psychologist and stuff like that. But if you're inside the prison, if they don't have a really think you did stuff, they're not going to check you. I
So
jumped
you
I jumped the fence and got stuff and jumped over again, so we can have the stuff we needed. And if you
wow.
don't do it like that, then we have people throwing stuff over the fence or like ways to get stuff inside.
And the COs aren't watching any of this, or they just don't care.
I think they care, but they don't see.
Now, one thing that you said that kind of stood out to me because you were talking about, so like say the psychologist, it's not the psychologist in the prison, it's your
No, it's
psychologist outside of the.
psychologists at home.
And do you drive and the CO goes with you, or he drives you, or
No, when you get to the psychologist, you can drive yourself. I had family drive me both
are they just
ways.
come and
But if you
pick you
go
up?
to the theater and stuff like that while they're inside, then you go with the COs.
Yeah, so tell everybody about that because I remember you telling me that story and I was just blown away. So here we call it the movies, but it's same thing, theater,
Yeah,
movies. So to explain to them how, because when you told me that, I was blown away. So if you want to go to the movies, you got to earn good behavior or whatever it is, and then you were talking about they actually take you, your COs, the COs actually go with you to the movie theater with other
yeah.
people, the civilians.
We went in a van over to the theater, and then when we came there, we can buy candy and stuff for the money we have. But if we don't win, with like they put a couple of chips in their hand, if you're lucky and you get the right chip, you can keep the stuff you still have after you finish watching the movie. So we go inside, buy candy with all of the people that's going to the movie with the COs, and they have normal clothing on. And we just watch the movie, we watch some action movie, and then we go back to the car, drive back.
And how many? So how many inmates would be going at one time? Do you think?
I think we're like six, maybe. I'm
So
not sure.
six. And how
Five or
many?
six.
How many COs? Just one CO or
I
more?
think it was just one. It's been a long time now, so I'm not sure, but I think it was just one, maybe two. But they're all dressed in normal clothing, so people can't see like they're.
And you
But
guys aren't wearing any
no,
type.
we even inside we wear our normal clothing, as long as you don't have like gang cut. If you have a biker cut, you have to take it off. But if you have normal clothing, you can have it on.
So you can just wear your normal street clothes all in
Yeah,
while you're in prison.
we don't have those prison uniforms. We don't have the orange prison uniforms you have in the States. No.
Yeah, they have all different colors, but yeah,
Yeah.
they all
I only
say
seen the orange ones.
whatever Department of Corrections you're
Yeah.
at on the back.
We had like white T-shirts like you have on now, with just marker writing down with the name of the prison if you want to wear it. We didn't have to. It's more if you don't have the clothing, you can put on that clothing.
So let me ask you about the violence in prison because here, and I've done a lot of videos, I've watched a lot, I've seen a lot. It's every day here. People are getting or sexually assaulted. They're getting stabbed to death, and they're whether it's 1-on-1 or it's 3-on-1. Did you see anybody get stabbed or killed while you were in
No,
prison? No, not at all.
not actually.
Did you know of people? Did they make their own weapons in there or anything like that, like they do here in the
Didn't
States?
need to. Like I told you, I watched Blood In, Blood Out before I went inside because I thought it was like the American prisons,
Oh,
just
you
to be
watch.
safe.
Oh, so you watched Blood In and Blood Out before you went to
Yeah,
prison?
I watched What Was Locals before I went inside.
Oh, that's cool. So, was there any violence at all? Like, was there did a spot like if somebody had? Of course, you're grown men, so you're going to have arguments with people.
Yeah, someone can
With
get angry, but then stopped, right? But like I told you, the person I went inside with one time in my room, my dorm room, it's like bunk beds. I was lying up on top of the bed, and he was lying down on the down bed. And then he told me how he's gonna kill me at night. It didn't kill me, but it just told me how it was gonna kill me.
and what did you do about that? How did you feel about
Nothing.
that? Nothing.
Nope.
So you never had a like. See now, if somebody said now here in the States, if somebody says, and I know it's not funny, but it's kind of funny that the way things are so different. If somebody's in your cell and they said, here in the United States, I'm going to kill you when you're sleeping, or I'm going to kill you, yeah, while you're sleeping. Well, the first thing you're going to do is, well, you're going to take off on that person, right then and there, or you're going to wait, not sleep, wait till he goes to sleep, whatever you got to do. Or again, there's weapons all in our prisons, and you're going to take a weapon. You're going to take care of him because he said what he said.
Yeah.
Um,
And one more thing I told you from Norwegian, like the Norwegian law, is if you do that thing, you go to jail. If you do another thing, like if you steal a car, but you went in for aggravated assault the first time, then you get less time for stealing the car because it's a new thing. But if you go back and do another aggravated assault attack, then you get more time.
so if you're a felon, so you were in there for aggravated assault, so you were in there for that, and then you went and stole a car or did some type of crime, then you would get less time. But if as long as you didn't do the same crime, then it was okay.
Yeah, that's what the lawyer told me and the judge.
And so they show this, like I said, California's trying to implement this. It's not working. I mean, they had just done in between like three guys stabbing an inmate, um in this in between that story, then the California Department of Corrections put out the next story was Prison Palooza. And this is where they're trying to, so they had like live bands, barbecue, the COs are playing basketball or cornhole with them. But I mean, when you look at it, there's not as many inmates. You look how big the prison, and the prison's huge, so they're only taking a select few of inmates, and mixing them up with the public it's within the prison walls. But yeah, and then
Yeah.
the next day there's another stabbing, you know what I mean, another homicide. And
Do you have female guards in the male prisons?
yes,
And how do they act if a man tried to pick him up, hit him?
that depends on the CO. That's where a lot of corruption comes in, because there's
In
a lot
Norway,
of,
they just laugh, like they just think it's funny. They
yeah.
think it
And
is a compliment.
And some of the female CEOs do that, and some of the female CEOs go further, as in a relationship or having sexual relations with an inmate, or smuggling stuff in. Because in California, like, it's not like Norway where, like you said, you can go out, um, and go to the movies or whatever, come back and be able to bring back popcorn, candy, pop, whatever, soda. But in California, cell phones get smuggled in, drugs get smuggled in, and a lot of these corrupt CEOs, because they pay them a lot of money to do it. And a lot of these females either get taken advantage of. I mean, I'm not saying all of them. I would say a good bit of them. They end up getting taken advantage of by either, these guys talking to them, manipulating them into, hey, can you get me this phone? Can you get me this? Can you get me that? And the male CEOs do the same thing. The price is right. If the price is right for the CEO, and say he's struggling at home, these gangs are offering him, thousands of dollars to bring in drugs or cell phones. They're good. Not all of them that have morals, but they'll do it for the money, and eventually
Yeah,
they get caught. But yeah, the females, there's been so many of them. That's the female correctional officers that have ended up intimate with the inmates, or and they lose their job, and then they end up marrying these guys, and I don't know, it's crazy.
I talked to a couple of my fellow inmates that went to prisons all around the world, and they told me like, "Holy shit, this is like heaven when it comes to Norwegian prisons, beside the other prisons worldwide. That's like high criminal people from different motorcycle clubs, right? Get
Yeah.
in and out of prison." And they told me it's great to be back in Norway because this is like a vacation for me.
How do they feed you there? I did a 3-part series.
I
I thought it
made
was
the
very.
food.
What's that?
I made the food.
Did you? I did this 3-part series where I found this website that showed in China, or no, I'm sorry, Japan, at these prisons, and I did breakfast, lunch, and then dinner. And I'm telling you what, these guys ate good. They were very militant. The inmates and the COs are very on top of them, and they check all the trays to make sure that they weigh stuff. They make sure everybody gets the exact same amount. The food looked good. Like one day for lunch, it was fried chicken, and it looked like everybody that got it got the same size, piece of fried
Yeah,
chicken. It was crazy.
we eat good. We eat different food. We have different inmates working at the kitchen making the food, and they get more money as a salary to be the kitchen chef. But then they have to wake up a little bit earlier to get the breakfast ready and do the dinner, do the dishes, all that shit, wash the kitchen. But we eat good food, and if you work in the prison kitchen, then you can go and get whatever you want and just eat.
Now, do you have to hide it, sneak it out? Because in the prisons here, if you work in the kitchen, you can't take anything. So they're smuggling sugar to make, you know what pruno is, right?
Yeah,
It's homemade wine or alcohol. So they would take fruit, they would smuggle fruit, sugar, things like that back to their cells, and that's how they, to get so they can make their alcohol.
oh, it's
Um,
like in the female prisons in Norway, one of them at least. They don't have like a prison shop, so they just send a list of what they need, and then the CEO go get it at the grocery shop, and even sometimes they can go get it together with one of the inmates.
they take the
So
inmate to the grocery store.
yeah, sometimes, and the like correctional officer can go to the grocery store with the list from every inmate in the female prison, what they need. Of course, not alcohol and stuff, but if they need a special like shaving cream and all that shit, they can just put it on the list, and the grocery shop have to run around with like a grocery bag and find all the stuff and get it ready.
And that's for what? And that's for any inmates or certain level inmates?
I'm not sure, but I just know that one of the female prisons in Norway was like that.
Oh, the females. Okay. So, but the male inmates you didn't do the grocery store.
Maybe, but some prisons have their own like shop. You go over to the shop, you're outside and yard, and you go over to like a small building. You stand there and tell them what you need, check the prices, buy it, take it with you back to your room.
So commissary. The
Yeah,
commissary is what we call it here, or canteen, or there's
yeah.
several different words, but it's
And we had
yeah.
like your own TV living rooms to sit in. Like a couple of inmates can sit in the TV living rooms, play checkers, or watch different TV shows, Norwegian TV shows.
So um you know, the documentaries that I've seen on the Norway project and what they show, like in California, the way when they went to Norway, like they show a full-fledged, pretty much like a dorm room,
Yeah,
like a college dorm room, where they got a couch and a bed and a TV, and like you said, a place, they get a PlayStation if they're
yeah,
good.
that's long timers.
So but a long timer there is the most 21 years, correct?
Yeah, and they can get like school. They can get a degree when they're inside. They have classrooms, and they can work on cars and stuff like that.
And so what do you mean by long timer? So like how many years? Like somebody that's in there for 10 years or 20
10
years
and
or
50 years, 10, 15 years, I think they can get it. Maybe 5, 6 years for everything I know. It's more like if you have a 6, 7, 8 months, then you don't have the time to get a degree. But if you're inside for a longer time, you have time to get a degree and to like get more perks.
what I was saying is and that's they allow that. I mean you're allowed to I mean you can get into school programs, get your college degree here. I was talking mainly of like the like to have your own like dorm room or
Yeah,
your
they have
own.
their own dorm room with their own kitchen, their own living room beside the kitchen. They have to clean the kitchen themselves and make the food themselves. And like they can make tacos and whatever they want to make.
And that's their own in their own place, so
Yeah,
nobody messes with them. But that's for
they
people
have they
that
have the prison guards go there, of course, and check. But they can do whatever they want to do. But they're always running around just to check.
now do they let any them have knives because you know like you're cutting up food
Maybe
or
plastic knives and stuff, but they have normal kitchen knives to cut food. I think to cut like cucumbers or like carrots and stuff like that if they make food.
wow, that's crazy. But they do they have to be watched that whole time by the CO and
To be honest, I'm not sure about that one, but as far as I know, you can watch like a documentary about that part because it's like one of the prisons in Norway that have a documentary. I think it's the person that went around all the worst prisons in the world. He went
yeah.
to Norway to see how great the Norwegian prison is too, how the system works. There's a couple of people from the US that's been there doing some documentaries just to see how Norwegian prisons are.
And you see how I'm sure you've seen on YouTube or the news there in Norway about how our prison system is. We have like one of the worst prison systems in the whole world. Is I mean, we're not. I mean, there's some other countries that are bad, but like we have the most. prisons, the most people incarcerated, the most violence that happens
Yeah.
in our prisons. Um, and so I just know they don't get it that we're not Norway, and like you explained earlier,
We're used to it.
yeah, the crime, the people, the gangs is it's not like it is here. And do you think in your own, I mean, knowing about the prison system here in the United States, or say in California, where they're the only ones right now trying to implement it, it's not working too well for them. They think it is. They want everybody to think it is, but it really isn't, because a lot of people are still getting killed, on the regular. But in your own opinion, from what you know about the prisons in the United States, or say California in particular, do you think that what would happen if they started doing what they do in Norway? I mean, do you think it would work?
Maybe you're right. I don't know. But the problem is that if they do it with the young ones, maybe it will work because they're not used to the system. But if you try the old timers, the long timers, try to teach them how to do new tricks, that won't work. And they can't just cut and copy the Norwegian stuff. If they're going to do it, they have to do everything. If they just take some of our stuff and then they try that, it won't work. They have to put the full system in. Like they have to try the full system if it's going to work.
Like,
They have to
say,
do it when they're young.
so say they have to take, like, I forget how many prisons there is now, 32 prisons in California. I can't remember now because they closed a bunch of prisons down. But you're saying something like, so if they took one prison or built one new, say they built a new prison and they made it strictly to implement like the Norway project,
Yeah.
and they started someone who's never been incarcerated before and put them in that atmosphere, things would, they could possibly work that way. But
Yeah, I think that would possibly work, but you can't put like old timer that's used to old tricks into the new Norwegian program. That won't work because they're like thinking, okay,
how
if
do I get
I,
over on them?
yeah, and at the same time, they have to know that if you have good behavior, you get the stuff. In
Yeah, that's what.
Norway, you don't get the stuff before you have the good behavior.
Yeah, and that's the problem is with the gang politics and the way that works. It's like that's not in their. I mean, they still, no matter how California, like you said, though, you had a good point there where they have to start them off like at one prison, and
Yeah,
that's only that prison, and they start someone who's never been incarcerated in prison ever, and start them in there that way, because like you said, these the guys that's been to prison, or they're violent, they've killed somebody out on the street, they come in there, they're fighting for their lives every day. Prison inmates
yeah.
are, I mean, they are here in the United States.
They're
It's like
not coming into the prison and thinking they're going to preschool. They're thinking they're going to murder school.
yeah, that's
Kill
true.
or get killed.
That's the mentality. It's like, I gotta watch it, or it's either me or this person, or you know what I
Yeah,
mean, or I gotta, it's, you're in that flight or fight mode all the time of
yeah.
of who's gonna come up behind you, you know what I mean, and you're done and take my life,
And
over
if you
something.
get visitors in a room, like in a small room with like a sofa or a bed, like we do in Norway, you can sit and chat with them. That's something else than sitting like in a big room in a chair with a table and you on the one part of the table, the other person on the other part of the table talking while everybody's listening.
So you get your own private room with your visitors,
Yeah,
with a couch. Is there a TV in there, or
no TV but couch or
so it's
couch bed.
comfortable? Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's comfortable
and
for.
they have like a small like cabinet with condoms if people need it.
So they
Free
let.
condoms.
Oh, so we're talking a whole nother level. So they have conjugal visits. So you
Yeah,
can actually have, and I remember you now. You were talking about that where, they could somebody could get a prostitute and call them up or whatever and have them come to the
tell
they
them
don't,
it's a family or friend. They don't check if it's a prostitute.
so they don't check none of the visitors like beforehand. And you were saying that some of the guys would get prostitutes and have them come in and do their business, and wow, that's crazy. That's insane.
And I grew up visiting my brother in prison, so he showed me like the condoms in the cabinet, and we sat on the sofa talking. A sofa that a lot of people had sex in, I believe. I'm sure of it, but I tried not to think about it when I was sitting there.
Yeah. So what here's another thing I'm trying to catch all the bases here, and then we'll cut it down here. But what about oh shoot, now I forgot what I was going to say. We talked about the conjugal visits, and man, I just totally blanked out on that question. I had it right there and then it went
But you
away.
can have your family or your kids right in that room talking to them instead of sitting with a million people having a conversation.
Yeah, like they do at the visiting rooms here. Yeah, they're at you're at a table, and then there's somebody at a table next to you, and another table next to you.
There's still a
Um,
correctional officer listening to you sitting there chatting and stuff, right? But you still have more the free space to be with your family.
Now, did you see or hear of and ever of any sexual assaults on other inmates? Like, you know what I
Mm,
mean?
not really, but I know a couple of places in Norway sometimes happens, but not that much.
Is it willing or is it where, nah, you know what? This is what you're gonna do, and you're gonna be my little, my punk, my.
I think it's willing. To be honest, my brother told me about that stuff.
So your brother, he was more or less like experienced in the prison system. He's your older brother, I take it.
Yeah, my older brother.
So he kind of gave you the laced you up and gave you the rundown of, hey, this is how it
Yeah,
works.
and told some
And
people that I'm going inside. Like my little brother's going inside, just so you know. So
well, so
I
that
still had to make friends with like I made friends with people from three different motorcycle clubs when I was inside. We all talked to each other. We all were friends inside. They didn't have a beef.
yeah, that's crazy. Because here, depending on your race, when you go to prison, it doesn't matter if you're in a motorcycle club. It does not matter. You're in a club. Say, you might have different races in your club. You might have white, Hispanic, whatever. It doesn't matter. Once you walk in those prison doors, you have to go with your race, and that's the
Yeah,
way it is. No matter what, there's no, oh well, I'm gonna go over here, or you know what I mean. It's crazy. Now, did you ever witness or see any assaults on staff, like the correctional officers?
no,
Never, no, never saw. And did you ever see any staff assaulting inmates?
no, not to be honest, no.
Wow. So they pretty much behaved themselves because they could have it a lot worse, pretty much.
Yeah, we had one time they thought we had drugs inside. Then we had to stay outside with like our pants down in the winter cold until they checked the rooms. But they didn't find anything, and then we just got back to the room.
But there was no staff assaults on
No,
inmates or inmates on staff, because that happens a lot. in the United States. The staff inmates will assault staff members if they feel like they've been disrespected or by the COs or whoever. And then there's a lot of staff members that are, that assault inmates. I know they have a job to do. So if somebody's out there, stabbing somebody, they have to. That's their job, is to try to protect that inmate. But there's times where it's I don't know if you've ever heard or watched anything about the Green Wall, where these COs were taken and doing a lot of things to the inmates, beating them down, setting up gladiator fights where they would
Yeah.
put them in two known rivals or whatever, and betting on their fight. You know what I mean? And letting them go in there and or making them go in there, whatever. So
In
that
my
none of that.
opinion, I can only see the COs being friends with the people inside, as long as like you respect them, they respect you, and it goes both ways.
And that's kind of how it is here, but the difference is the violence. I mean, it's like you know what I mean? There's always some type of violence. And then, of course, being I was a CO at one time in my life, and you see like you have a job to do, of course, and you're going to overlook some things, but then other things you're going to look at, that you can't overlook, when it comes to certain things. But
Yeah,
um, what about in Norway? Is there a lot of chomos? You know what a chomo is, or a sex offender that's messed with little kids or women. Um,
I didn't meet anyone that's done that, but of course, like in the rest of the world, there's people like that. But when I went inside, they taught me either they accidentally fall down the stairs, the stone stairs, or they put a sock with a mandarin and just hit until they're at nighttime, and
so
that's
they
the bad boys, right? So
so
they don't like people like that.
exactly, and same here. It's the same here,
People
and
don't tell them what they're inside for, right? It's
so
like
they don't. And that's another thing I was going to get at. Um, so like in California, any prison here that you go to in the United States, they want to see your paperwork. Okay, that's the first thing. So when you go in and say you get celled up with somebody in a cell, or even if you're not in a cell but you're in a dorm setting, um, they want to see your paperwork. They want to see your charges. They want to see what you've, or your PSI, or they want to see what your crime is. And if it's a weirdo crime like that, then they're going to do something to you, or you're going to get you if you don't get out of there in time. You know what I mean? Those guys normally know already, and they're going to get out.
it's more word of mouth. Like we don't talk about what we're inside for if we don't want to.
So they don't ask. People don't say, "Hey, what are you in here for?" When you first walk in the door.
If they ask, a lot of people lie. Some
But
people tell the truth, but a lot of people lie.
and they don't have no way there of checking somebody's paperwork, so you don't know who you're with or
No,
what they did. They could lie to you, and they could
I had
be.
like four different people that I lived with in my apartment, my room, uh, in the time that I was inside, and I didn't know what they were inside for. I
Wow.
just know that person that told me like he's gonna kill me in his sleep. I know that he has a psychological issue because one time I told the CEOs that he was standing with like a broken glass from his mirror, trying to cut himself in the window.
Did they take him out?
Yeah, but they didn't see anything. If I didn't tell them, they wouldn't do anything. So I told them, like, I think he's more a mental patient than the prisoner.
Wow. That's just it's like night and day. That's crazy.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
so
You
anything
just
else
watch the documentary and then you'll see that it's a fact.
now? Do you like you or your friends or family? Have they ever, watched the documentaries on or yourself, you know, about prisons in the United States and how they show all the violence and stuff like that?
Of course, I have. I watched like documentaries of the world's worst prisons, just because I think it's like a little bit funny to see how it works in other places in the world and see how much different it is from Norway.
And had you ever talked to say any other inmates or just your friends in general on the outside that ever you guys ever discussed like, wow, that's crazy? Like, do you see what happens in those prisons over there in the United States, man? Those guys are
You know, people don't talk about it. Like it's the same with people don't talk about shit in Norway when it comes to prisons and stuff. Just like you don't talk about all the Norwegian stuff because Norwegians don't see stuff on the news. You have to try to search on the websites to find stuff because the government don't want to tell you everything. Just like in the U.S.,
oh yeah, they try to
there's
hide
a lot of
everything.
stuff you don't know about Norway, like, right? That I told you about. Like Norway's a rich country, yeah, with oil, but the people in Norway are not rich. We're poor. We have to pay a lot of money for our electrical bill. We have to pay money for insurance and a lot of money for a lot of shit. And the food's mega expensive right now.
Yeah, everything here is out of control. I mean, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I was paying $1 or something for $1.79 for gas, and now it's like $4 a gallon. And then I could get a grocery cart full of groceries for say 100 to 150 bucks. Now I'm lucky to get 4 bags of groceries for $100.
Yeah.
It's just out of control everywhere.
And
Obviously.
you know, Norway it's illegal with steroids and all drugs. The only drug you can have is alcohol.
So what was that now?
In all
So
of Norway, the only thing that you can do is drink alcohol.
so every
You can't
drug,
do any drugs. You can't do steroids.
even marijuana, is illegal there.
Yeah, marijuana is illegal.
Yeah, see here, they're pretty much marijuana. I mean, there's still some states that haven't legalized it, but most of the 50 states now have pretty much legalized marijuana
Yeah.
usage. Steroids is not legal here.
And
That is illegal.
we don't know
But
what a person that raped someone or raped a child get less sentence than a person that hit someone.
in Norway,
Yeah,
that's kind of how it is here. And I talk to people about like when I was worked as an investigator or when I worked as a felony probation officer. I've got these guys that's done things like you just talked about that I'm supervising, and they got either didn't do, never went to prison, they just got put on paper, and I'm supervising them, or they might have done 6 months and then they got put on paper. And then you got some guy that sold weed and he got
yeah,
10 years in
yeah.
prison.
And we
And
don't
it's
know what death row is.
and it's like the people that do these things to kids and things like that, they mess them up for the rest of their lives. They're ruined for
Yeah,
mentally. And somebody who sells somebody weed, you know what I mean? It's their choice. I'm not forcing you to buy the weed. If you want to buy
yeah.
the weed, then I'll sell you the weed. You know what I mean?
And it's
It's
like
pretty.
my arthritis. I can't get shit for my arthritis. Uh, the only thing I can get is from the government. and that's like medicine with some chemotherapy inside of it.
Wow. Well, and I'm thinking we're going to wrap it up. I think you pretty much answered the most of my questions. I really want to thank you for coming on here and talking with me. Is there anything that you want to say before we end this?
I could say one thing is 23:56 in Norway right now. It's like nighttime, and I can say in Norwegian, takk for at jeg fikk lov å være med. Jeg setter veldig pris på det, Charlie. Og POP er noe som alle burde sjekke ut. Check out POP, a great stream, a great YouTube channel, and this man is a great man and really knows what he's talking about.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm going to go ahead and put that
Or
right. Thank you, sir. And Steiner, as your name says, Viking Power Building. You're one of my sponsors now. You're going to sponsor my channel and my videos, and I appreciate that. So make sure you guys go to vikingpowerbuilding.com for all your clothing needs. Let's see what is he going to.
fucking shit like that. Let's see if I can find a perfect way to show. This is just a hoodie. Oh crap. Yeah.
And
it's not that easy to do
yeah,
this.
yeah.
But yeah.
And
Okay.
that's awesome. And just so people understand, here in the United States, they Viking Power Building, and you've been doing this since 2013. You've been in business since 2013, and your brand is not because see, in the United States, people will get this confused. Like like I was telling you about the gangs, like the Aryan Brotherhood will have Viking tattoos, all and things like that. People associate people with the Vikings as a racial white hate group. And I know that's not true. We've been friends. I know that for a fact. You've told me the whole history, and you know the whole history about it. It's not about that. Did you want before we go? Did you want to talk a little bit about your brand, which is vikingpowerbuilding.com? Make sure you go there and put in the code POP as you see right here. That's my special code. You're going to get 25% off. Thank you to Steiner here. He's going to give him 25% off to all my subscribers. Go check that out. He's got a clothing line for everybody, kids, women, men, tank tops, hoodies, hats, sweats, anything you can think of, it's on there. And he personally makes these designs into logos. So he has several designs that he has. And I'm wearing one of those designs right now on my shirt right here. That's one of the Viking Power Building designs that you came up with. But I have several of the clothing from Viking Power Building. But
we're just trying to take back the Viking name. We're the Norwegians, the Danish, the Icelandic, the Swedish. We're the Vikings. We're farmers. We're people with heritage from the Vikings. The Vikings built our country. Our king is actually a descendant of a Viking. So I think it's about time we take back the Viking name to Norway and build a Viking clothing brand for people that works out and like lifestyle brand for the whole family. And we want to give back to the community. We want to give back to charity. We don't just want to get rich by selling shit. We want to give back to the community and help people, help kids, and maybe in the future build our own gyms so the kids can work out for free and grown-ups have to pay, and build the kids' self-esteem and help them with coping with bullies and that's the future and the dream.
Sounds good. Helping the kids is where it's at. Starting them out young and getting them out of so they don't get tied up in the gangs and the bullying and all that, and get into the gym. And that sounds great. That's a good that's very good outlook. And I'm glad that you
Just
donate to.
remember, you're next to become the keeper of your own destiny.
All right, Steiner. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon. We'll do a follow up maybe after so long and see how this goes. I appreciate you doing this interview, and hope you have a great night. And
Score.
all right.